Only one thing worth highlighting here, of course, the launch of the Galaxy S3 in London yesterday, which I went along to. Leaving aside the somewhat sickly nature analogies in Samsung's presentation, I was impressed by the device itself. From the already best-selling SGS2, there's a bigger, albeit pentile, screen, faster processors and bigger battery, while happily keeping the removable battery and the card slot. What's not to like? The biggest emphasis was placed on the new software, though, with a Siri clone, S-Voice, with automatic face tagging in photos, and with a way of waking up using just audio, i.e. no button presses. Full review coming very soon. Only 2 phone shows ago, I dug into detail into the HTC One X, the newest, biggest and baddest Android smartphone in the world, and proclaimed it to be HTC's triumph, a terrifically built, top-spec device that's restored my faith in the company. Now we have the One S, disappointingly only 3mm shorter, so it feels almost as large and still has that annoying top-mounted power button that means the device is just about impossible to unlock one-handed. Well, it's doable, but it's tricky. It is 5mm narrower, though, to be fair, offering an identical software and gadgetry package to the One X in a more pocketable and manageable form. In fact, it's sumptuously built and in metal this time rather than polycarbonate. And how the heck do companies manage to make smartphones this thin? Worth a full 10-minute review? Well, probably not. I hate repeating myself. Go watch Phone Show 166 again if you want to know more. But there are a few key differences worth noting, some of which are somewhat negative, I am sorry to say. The display is now only 4.3 inches. I can't believe I'm using the word only about a 4.3-inch screen on a phone. I blame the Galaxy S2 for spoiling us all. It's Quarter HD, that's 540 by 960 rather than 720p, and it's Super AMOLED. What? Is this HTC licensing a Samsung screen technology, or is this their copy of the idea? We should be told. In any case, the result is super. Think Galaxy S aesthetics and contrast, but only slightly bigger. Eagle-eyed users will spot the display as pentile rather than RGB. At this resolution and screen size, does it really make a difference in normal use? Not to my eyes, but then I'm older than your average One S buyer, I suspect. 20-somethings may call foul. The internals are scaled down a bit too, a dual-core 1.5 gig processor rather than a quad-core, but if anything, this phone flies faster at most things because it's got less pixels to throw around. This is one super fast smartphone. There's the same 1 GB of RAM, and here's where things go a bit pear-shaped, disappointingly only a 16 GB internal disk with no micro SD expansion. I forgave this sealed approach to memory on the One X because we were talking about 32 GB, but I'm sorry, 16 GB just falls the wrong side of my "is this enough" yardstick. I mean, the typical Android user is going to want a load of music preloaded in here, a few movies, some decent HD games, room to capture a few more videos, and the 16 gig is all gone. I've complained about the same capacity in Windows phones, but at least there you've got an OS that is so terrible at storing and playing local videos that no one will bother. This is Android and media compatibility is great. Why the heck couldn't HTC have found room for a micro SD slot somewhere on the case? Even HTC's budget 1V model has a card slot, you know, and in that I can whack a 32 GB card with ease. And while I'm on the sealed-in rant, there's the same sealed-in battery here. It's 1650 milliamp hours and will probably do most users fine, but I still hate the idea, even if I'm the last person in the entire world to stay old school here and to treasure battery flexibility. The top does come off to reveal 3 sets of RF aerials at the mercy of sets of gold contacts, sensation style. When will companies learn this is not a recipe for long-term reliability? If my rants have rung true with you, then avoid the One S and go for the less flawed One X or the cheaper One V instead. If, on the other hand, you're sitting there thinking I'm just being negative for the sake of it, then these factors obviously don't bother you. So go right ahead and buy the S. You'll get the same Android 4 plus Sense 4 experience as on the One X, the same excellent fast camera and camcorder, the same premium build quality, in short, the same excellent phone. Personally, though, I would rather pay a little more. I'd accept a few extra millimeters here and there, and I'd go for the full-on One X experience. See again, show 166 for more on this. Or I'd do what I actually did do and go and get the Galaxy Nexus instead. Admittedly lower quality camera, but similar form factor, Larger, higher-res display, instantly replaceable battery, easily reached side power button, and of course pure Android 4 with instant updates from Google. But don't let all this put you off the One S too much. Maybe I just got out of bed the wrong side this morning. On its own merits, the One S is still a thoroughly decent, modern 2012 Android smartphone. It's not its fault that it's got a bigger, stronger brother. I have in my hands two second-generation budget Windows Phone 7 smartphones, so what better way to cover them both than by putting them head-to-head? Is there a clear winner? Let's take things round by round, scoring each out of 10. The HTC Radar is sumptuously built in unibody metal with just a pop-off section on the bottom here to allow the insertion of a standard SIM card. It's all very premium in the hand, right down to a proper metal 2-stage shutter key for the autofocus 5-megapixel camera. In comparison, the Lumia 710 is 100% plastic. It's not cheaply done, it's certainly solid in the hand and robust, but there's no trace of metal. The whole back cover comes off to reveal a replaceable battery, great for a year down the road when capacity starts to dip significantly, and a micro SIM card. However, the camera shutter button is cheap plastic with an insubstantial mechanism, and despite the 710's changeable battery and despite the cheerfully coloured backs available, I have to award this round to the Radar, which just feels higher quality overall. The Radar screen is fractionally larger at 3.8 inches, but the Lumia's 3.7-inch display is more colour accurate when displaying media, thanks to the use of TFT rather than LCD here. Images and videos seem somehow crisper, while the extra clear black display polarizers keep outdoor contrast, if anything, higher on the 710 than on the Radar. There's not much in it, but the 710 does edge it for me. The 710 should win easily here with its 1.4 GHz processor, but the 1 gig unit in the Radar isn't far behind. It was often tough to tell much of a difference. Both units were fast in all the ways Windows Phone is normally fast, and slow in all the ways it's normally slow. But the 710 is fractionally quicker overall, web, apps, navigation, and so on. I'm going to virtually disqualify both handsets here for being complete rubbish. The Lumia 710's tiny speaker is tinny and weedy, while the HTC Radar's is slightly less tinny, but then distorts horribly as soon as you try and play anything approaching maximum volume. It's a real letdown really for both, and a crying shame for Nokia, which has produced some of the best sounding phones in the world in the past. Neither speaker are really good enough for podcast listening and speakerphone use, in my opinion. Both pale compared to the Nokia N8 and the Apple iPhone 4 components, for example. Sadly, the Radar's 5-megapixel camera is old school HTC and quite terrible. Messes up colours, over-sharpens everything, artifacts wherever you look. In contrast, the Lumia 710's camera is average by Nokia standards, but still a league ahead in this company. Test 720p footage on the HTC Radar. Not bad picture, and there's not much to choose between the two phone cameras, but listen to the audio difference when I switch to the Nokia Lumia 710. And there we go, quite a big difference in terms of quality. Nokia has obviously used much higher quality components. HTC, I'm sorry to say, has cheaped out again. As you know, Windows Phone's handling of multimedia isn't brilliant. Side-loading video clips has to be done through the desktop, and you have to wait an eternity while everything's transcoded to the right format. So cloud-based video is the way to go. Once playback of suitable material is underway, the 710's moving images are crisper and more natural. The Radar's version is overcoloured and slightly muddied. The LCD display matrix at work, perhaps, or just a lower quality component. Both devices run Windows Phone 7.5, of course, so we're talking about the differences that incidental factors make. In this case, although I'm a fan of physical buttons on phones, I draw the line at needing chunky buttons just to go back or indeed search here on the Lumia. The ideal arrangement, as on the iPhone and UK Galaxy S and S2 units, is to have a central home button and then other functions on capacitive spots. At a pinch, the central button can be capacitive too, as on the Radar, but the 710 puts all three Windows Phone control functions on a rather stiff plastic rocker bar here. When the rest of the interface is finger touch light and swishy, having to break into press this button really hard just to go back is very, very annoying. Definitely a win for the Radar. Both HTC and Nokia try to differentiate in terms of add-on software. HTC has an onboard video store, HTC Watch, with DRM-locked films to rent for a day for £1, or buy for a somewhat outrageous £10 or so. There's connected media, that's DLNA, a flashlight, photo enhancer, notes, and more. A nice utility package. HTC Locations has had Route 66's real-time sat-nav functions grafted in, but as you might expect, once the 30-day trial's up, you'll have to pay per month or per year. And more for real-time traffic. Nokia's bundle is smaller but more heavyweight. Nokia Drive is a full offline sat-nav of the entire world for free, forever, with lovely voices and mature functionality. Nokia Maps is showing a few rough edges from its port from Symbian, but should get an update soon enough. There are two big streaming audio options. TuneIn Radio is a generic internet radio client, and Nokia Music is a Spotify-like commercial music streaming system that's amazingly completely free forever. Everything's just, well, free. Both HTC and Nokia's application packages are reasonably rounded, but most people will flock to free, whether it's music or navigation, so the Lumia 710 has to be the winner here. With 64 points to 56, the Lumia 710 comes off a distinct winner here. Somewhat surprising, actually, to me, given that the basic platform spec and form factor is more or less identical between the two devices. I was expecting a tie. Even more surprising is that the 710 is being heavily discounted just about everywhere right now. You can pick it up in the UK for £125 with no contract, while the Radar consistently gets sold for around the £250 mark. I know I get accused of Nokia bias, but I'm sorry. The 710 is simply a better phone overall and roughly half the price of the Radar. Both are Windows Phone, of course, with all its pluses, that's smooth, fresh UI, and minuses, flawed multitasking, desktop reliance, close ties to Microsoft's cloud products, and so on. It's a bit like the iPhone OS. You either love it or want to shoot it. In summary, the HTC Radar is a lovely smartphone to hold, but flawed once you come to use all of its features, while the Lumia 710 is a solidly plastic offering that punches way above its weight and above its price.